Hey there, I will tell you, as a book editor, I hear all the time, Kelly, can you please help me get my book finished? I've been wanting to write the book forever. So today's video is going to be simple and clear. It is the number one tip I have for actually finishing your book. So stick around. My name's Kelly Notaras. I'm the founder of KN Literary Arts. We are your one-stop shop helping you get from wherever you are to having a book in your hand. So visit us at knliterary.com to learn more. I also have been an editor in the US book publishing business for over 25 years, and I bring all of that wisdom to this YouTube channel for free. So please hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so you never miss a video. Honestly, I would say the number one most important, most pressing, most common question I get is, how do I finish the book that I have been trying to write for many, many years? Now, I will say that I'm going to give you a tip that's going to sound like easier and more simple than it is. And I do understand that. So just be forewarned. But I will say that when this tip is applied, it almost always results in the book actually getting done. So let me just explain something to you. When I got into the book publishing business straight out of college, I never really had that much of a problem with my authors getting their books turned in on time. So when I got out of the traditional publishing business and I got into working directly with authors who are just getting started and walking in the door, amongst many other authors that we work with, but a lot of people who watch this YouTube channel are just getting started, I was kind of surprised by how many people had this question, how much of a problem it was for people. I will say, I am one of those people who just I set a goal and I get it done. That's just who I am. It's who I've always been. It's part of my personality type. It's just, I'm an Enneagram type 3. I am a J on the Myers-Briggs. You know, any of you who know personality typings, I'm a Capricorn. I'm a full-on sun in Capricorn babe, right? So we get our stuff done that we want to get done. But that is not everybody, and I do understand that. So for other people who don't necessarily have that same drive to get the thing done, how do you convince yourself to sit down and write the book? And the answer that I got when I started getting those questions was to look at the distinction between the authors who I was working with when I was working in the publishing business, working at traditional publishers, and the authors that I was working with when I was working directly to, in this kind of communication directly with authors. What is the difference? Well, one of the main differences that I saw was that the people who were being published had a meaningful deadline. If they did not turn in their book somewhere around the time that they had promised to turn in their book, they were going to owe money back to the publishing company. So what that meant was, as they were getting further and further toward the date that the book was due, the pressure mounted. And if they were the type of person who worked well under pressure, no problem. The pressure was mounting. They knew their deadline. They were going to get that book in by midnight the night before that deadline, come hell or high water, right? If they were not that type of person, which, by the way, everybody who gets published by traditional publishers are not all type A, Enneagram 3 Capricorns. There are plenty of people out there who operate very differently when it comes to task work. And they would just see, as time went by, or maybe they already knew this about themselves before they were in the writing process, that they were going to need help. So oftentimes they would hire a ghostwriter to work with them. We call them a collaborative writer at KN Literary, because they knew that they were going to need that kind of structure, that kind of companionship, company on the journey of writing, and someone else to hold the deadlines, because that's not really what they worked best with, right? So they would hire that out. Regardless, that money that was owed, that would be owed, they'd signed a contract, they had accepted a check, and they basically would have to return that money with the, cancellation of the contract and the loss of their great desire of having that book published by the publisher if they did not turn that in on time. Let's turn to the authors that I work with directly, the people who are just getting started, who are really wanting to either self-publish a book or get a book into the hands of agents, and they have been working on it or thinking about it for a really long time. And in most cases, they have something completely else that they're doing with their everyday life. They're maybe raising kids and having a job and taking care of their aging parents and who knows what, right? That they have a lot of reasons, really good excuses not to be working on their book on any given day. They were the ones that were coming to me saying, how do I do it? How can I get this book written? So the answer to that question and the tip from this video is to set yourself an actually meaningful deadline for getting your book done. Because if you don't have the publisher holding money over your head and the possibility of a canceled contract, how else are you going to get the book done if you have all these other things on your plate and you're not somebody who just naturally is like, oh, I can't wait to sit down and write every single day, even when I don't feel like it, because that's what you have to do. So what do I mean when I'm saying a meaningful deadline? I'm really meaning a deadline that will, I hate to like put it in the negative, but it kind of is true. It's the way we as humans work, is going to cause you pain in some way that's obviously greater than not having a book in the world, because the pain of not having a book in the world has not gotten you to sit down and write the book for all these many years you've been working on it. So you need to choose some sort of a meaningful pain that you are going to feel if you don't meet your deadline. So what are some examples of this? I work very closely with the publisher Hay House. We have a couple really awesome writers memberships. If you want to know more, you can check the link below. We have writers memberships where we include a deadline inside the membership where you can turn in a book proposal or a manuscript if you're writing fiction, and you will get seen by the editorial team at Hay House, which is impossible to be seen by unless you have an agent. And so that is a major meaningful deadline for the people that are in the membership. They don't want that deadline to pass because it's part of what they paid for to join the membership, and it's keeping them moving forward. I hear over and over, I would not have gotten this book proposal written if there had not been a submission date and a deadline. Okay, so that's an example. You can join a membership like ours. You can find a writing contest that you're committed to entering. Hopefully there's some prepayment to it, so you feel like, oh, I'm going to lose that money if I don't actually deliver at least something. Because oftentimes I find that people feel like the thing they need to deliver has to be of such utter perfection that they could never even really get there. And it's almost like there's a psychological barrier to them finishing because they're afraid it's not going to be good enough. And what I will say is, just get a draft done and turn it in to whatever contest you're entering or whatever that deadline is. Just get the draft done, because once you have the draft, maybe you don't win the contest, or maybe you don't get picked up by the publisher or whatever that might be if you find one of those contest agreements, but at least you did the thing. You know what I mean? And you have something to work with now. You got over the first hurdle, which is that blank page paralysis. So even if that's all you get out of the meaningful deadline, it is a lot. It is really good enough to set you in a foundation for actually taking the next step and improving and refining it to the point where it might actually find a publisher or might win the contest, or you might be ready to self-publish it. So what if you don't have a clear contest deadline that you can enter? That's okay. You can still figure out what's motivating for you. So some people are definitely motivated by money, right? So the fact that all of my authors, when I was working at the publishing companies, turned their book in on time or pretty close to time, they had money on the line. Right? They had money and reputation on the line. So you have to ask yourself, what are my pain points? Like, for example, if reputation is a pain point for you and you fear public humiliation, a great way to keep yourself on track with your book deadline would be to set up a GoFundMe. So this is where you send out to your friends, your colleagues, people on social media, the fact that they can support you financially in getting your book written. And then in exchange for whatever they give you up front, they're going to get a copy of your book on this date. Okay? So set that date far enough out that you actually can really deliver on that promise. But know that all those people who are going to be so excited to support you and are going to send you $20 or whatever it is that, the GoFundMe is asking for, they're going to be waiting for that book and their money is on the line, right? So they've invested some energy into this. So then suddenly, if you're one of those people who's motivated by the fear of humiliation, you are going to get that book written, let me tell you, right? Because all those people are going to be waiting for it. So you're going to have that extra oomph behind you. Okay. Now, again, if you're motivated more by money, then something that I've heard works for some people is to take a meaningful amount of money for you. It's not going to work if it's $20. Meaningful amount of money is different for everybody. You want to choose an amount of money you will miss, an amount of money that you absolutely want to get back. So for some people, that's going to be $100. For other people, it's going to be $1,000. For other people, it's going to be $10,000. You're going to give that money to a trustworthy friend, someone who's not going to spend it, who's going to hold it in escrow for you. And if you do not do the thing you're promising to do, and it might be write the whole book, or it might be write the book proposal, we don't know, whatever it is you're working on, by this date, they are going to get to do whatever they want with that money. They could give it away to a charity that you do not support. They could use it to throw a pizza party for their kid, but they're going to use it in some way and you are going to lose it. So that's another potential. So you really have to know your own psychology and figure out what is it that is going to motivate me. And again, it's oftentimes a negative motivation, right? But sometimes it can be a positive motivation. So for example, what if you really want a vacation and you have the money to go on the vacation, but it's going to be a little bit, tough. It's not like you just are rolling in it, but you've got enough that you could actually go to Hawaii or wherever you want to go. And you say to yourself, I am not allowed to go to Hawaii until I finish my book. How about that? So you're setting this and you put it on the date with your loved ones or your friends that you're going to go with on this vacation, and everyone's planning for it. You better get that book done. You know what I mean? You better get that book done in order to do that. An example that's sort of like that, it's kind of an opposite of that, but is that I once was a coach on a 1 month long book writing retreat, where for 1 month we were all sort of holed up in a gorgeous little hotel in Bali, and everyone knew the amount of words they needed to write every day in order to do a first draft of their book in that month. And if they did not actually do the writing during the week, this was up to them. They got to decide whether they did this, but we suggested they not let themselves go on the excursions on the weekends, because we had these really cool excursions planned all around Bali. Right? So they would miss out on the excursions if they did not get that writing done. And by the way, we gave them reasonable writing goals. Maybe it was like 1,500 or 2,000 words to write in an entire day when all you're doing and you're surrounded by writers writing. That's actually a pretty reasonable goal. So if they didn't reach it, they could actually double up on another day and get 4,000 words written. And we had them fully knowing what their outlines were before they got there, because that's another tip that I'll give you, is that if you have an outline, you at least know what your little assignment is that you want to work on any day you sit down. You just go to your outline, you pick the assignment, because knowing that you can make small, and another way to hit your deadlines is to make small deadlines for yourself. I'm going to write this chapter this month, and I have 8 different sections in this chapter. So that means I need to write 2 sections per week, which I should be able to write 1 section on each of my 2 days a week that I'm writing for, let's say I have 90 minutes or 2 hours twice a week. Then you know the pace you need to be writing and you can keep up with it. And you also have all these other days that you could make up for a day if you somehow got sick or something meant that you couldn't actually write that piece that day. But you would at least know what your writing goals are. So setting incremental goals is yet another way that you can build that meaningful deadline that will ultimately get you to the point where you had the book in the world. So I don't mean to be a negative Nelly telling you to pick something that's going to hurt, but if it doesn't hurt, you're probably not going to overcome the inertia of not writing. You have spent so many more days of your life not writing than you have writing. There's sort of a natural inertia toward not writing. You have to stop it in its tracks. And the way to do that is to set a meaningful deadline for yourself and keep it. So I would love to hear from you. How have you succeeded in doing the writing you've been wanting to do? Put it in the comments below so we can all share in your wisdom and celebrate your success, because everyone has a different way to set these meaningful deadlines for themselves. But if you have that meaningful deadline set, it's almost guaranteed that you will actually reach your goals and get the book in the world. And that is all we want for you at KN Literary. So let us know if we can help. And in the meantime, happy writing.